Parshas Chayisoro, Perek Chovim, Posuk Tezayim. V'yishma Avram el Ephron, v'yishkol Avram le'Ephron es hakesef. Initially, Ephron had said, consider it yours. Then ultimately, when it came to actually transact, to transfer ownership, Ephron says to Avram, Adoni, Shma'ini, my master, listen to me, Arba meos shekel kesef, beinu ve'edcha mahi, 400 shekel kesef between us. What is it? It's a pittance. For and you give the 400 shekel, and the property is yours. Initially, he was willing to give it away for nothing. He says, consider it, the way he spoke, consider it yours as a gift. And now he's asking a king's ransom to transfer it. He says, because it's not a big deal. It's not that much money. Even though the Gemara explains, he paid a fortune for it. So over here, the Chazal tell us to distinguish between Avram and Ephron. Avram had said to the Malochim, Ekcha pas lechem. You got nomat mine. Take a morsel of bread. And when he actually hosted them, it was Suda Shlomo Kefashaita. It was the equivalent of Shlomo Melech, the height of his power. That was the hospitality which Avram had offered the Malochim. And here, Ephron, he says, consider it yours. And then at the end of the day, he's charging him. He wants a fortune. So from here we see, tzadikim omrimat, vosim harbe. Tzadikim, they say very little, but ultimately when they deliver enormous amount. Rishoyim, omrim harbe, they promise you the world, vein osem afilamat. And when they deliver, they don't even deliver as much as an iota. He said it's considered a gift, and ultimately it was beyond its value. That's Rishoyim. Tzadikim omrim mat v'osem harbe. They say very little, but they do enormous amount. Now, what is a tzaddik? Although he says less, he does much more. Why is he doing more if it's not necessary to do more? The answer is, of course, it's necessary to do more. A tzaddik, everything he does is what? There's an objective. Avram, what was his objective? His objective was bringing people to monotheism, giving them a sense of value that nobody has greater value than the actual guest. And therefore, he's hosting him in this very elaborate way. However, when he initially offers his hospitality, he doesn't want to burden the person, and that was the story. If I tell you, yeah, you have 2 days available, because that's the hospitality, that's the kind of hospitality I'm going to offer you. As a result of that, you're actually burdening the guest. So you put the offer in the court of the host, of the guest. Have a morsel of bread. It's up to you. And it says they agreed. And as they agreed to be there, Avram now, because he says, I will not burn you. I will not hold you up. He offers them more. But what's the objective the more? If they want, they say, excuse me, we said we're staying a short period, we're leaving. As he offers more, if they stay, even if they don't partake of everything you offer, but the Gemara says in Baruchas, what is an exceptional host? An exceptional host is, it's not he calculates how much does the guest need. He offers an array of food. Now it's up to the guest to take as much as he wants. Although he knows the guest can't eat only a fraction of what he's offering, but it's giving the guest value that he's special, and therefore he's giving all these choices, whether it's the types of foods or the amount of food. A bad host, he calculates exactly how much food does he need. 6 ounces per person. I have 2 guests. I put down 12 ounces on the table. That's a bad host. Because there, you're not giving that person that sense of value, that you're showing him that because of he's special, therefore you're willing to go out to the nth degree for him, but rather you're only accommodating his limited need. More than that, you're not giving. So a tzaddik, where there's an objective, he wants him to feel that he has that value, not to feel he's burdening him. Therefore, he says, take a small amount. Now it's up to the person. Person says, I agree. And as he interacts, he presents much more. Now it's up to the guest to take as much as you want, but the guest understands that what the host is doing, he's showing the value to what degree he values him, because that's the objective. Ephraim wanted one thing. Ephraim doesn't give away ice in the winter. It's all being not honest. Consider it yours, but he understands Avraham wants that. He wants that property. He needs that burial location for his wife. As a result of it, consider it yours. Once Avraham said from get-go, I'm giving money, I'm paying, consider it as if I gave you the money already. Avraham is saying up front, I don't want gifts. I want nothing from you. I'm willing to pay full dollar. Now, ultimately, when he delivers, when he realizes that he has this interested buyer, now he's coming for the kill. Because all he's interested in what? In taking as much as you can from Avraham Avinu. Therefore, ultimately, so tzaddikim omnim mat vosem harbe. Because they understand the objective. All I want to do is I don't want to burden you, and I want you to appreciate who I am and the way I value. Rishoyim, who do they value? They only value themselves. They have their objective. Their objective is their own self-interest. As a result of that, omrim harbe, they promise you the world. When it comes to deliver, they don't. If they could get away, they don't deliver as much as an iota. And that was the story with Ephraim. And therefore, as a result of that, when Avram weighed out the silver, the Torah says, I mentioned yesterday, Yishkel Avram le'Ephron es hakesef. Ephron is written deleted. The Vav is deleted. And as we mentioned, the name of Rabbeinu Bachio, that the numerical value of Ephron is Ayin Ro. It was due to his envy of Avram that he had such wealth, and that's the reason why he asked this kind of money. And when he saw him counting out the money, he seethed with envy when he saw what Avram had. So he had this very serious deficiency. We find by Eliezer later when he went to find a wife for Yitzchok, and Rivka is offering the water. He says, Hagmini no mat mayim. Give me a small sip of water. He says, mat mayim. Give me a sip. Why? Because when you ask for something, you don't want to put the other person in a position that you're burdening him. Eliezer, being the tzaddik he was, he says, Hagmini no. So what did she do? How did Rivka respond? He asked for a small amount, but how did she respond? Enormous. She went and she gave him what he asked, and she went refilled the trough, and she gave water to his men, gave water to his camels. So we see the other way. What was Rivka's behavior? He asked for a small amount, but what does she deliver? Enormous. Because that's chesed. Chesed means I will accommodate you at a point, up to the point that you're not interested any longer. Because she understood what is the need. It's not I'm doing because I have an obligation, but rather I want to satisfy your need. And what is your need? Not only Eliezer's need, the need of all his men to give them water, and the need to give water to all his camels. There's an interesting Yalkut here. The Yalkut says something which is interesting. We know that Avram's whole life was chesed. Even up to the angels. His whole life was hospitality. The ultimate level of hospitality is what? The story with the Malachim. And therefore, we find that every aspect of that chesed produced something which has realms to eternity. The shade of his tree, we had the Adnei Yaakov, the water, we had the Be'er Shel Miriam, Ekho Pas Lechem, we had the Mon, produced phenomenal chesed. We see the fruits of the mitzvah, what it produced. But yet, Hashem says to Avram, after he purchased the Marsa Machpelah for a burial plot for Sari Menu, Hashem says, finally, the chesed you're doing is similar to my chesed. You're wearing my cloak. Until now, you haven't worn my cloak. The cloak of Hashem is chesed. As this is Olam Chesed Yiboneh. Until now, you haven't done chesed. Finally, now that you're buying the burial plot for Sari Menu, now you're actually reflecting my kind of chesed. So what do you mean? I mean, Avram's whole life was chesed at an unlimited level. Why now with the purchase of the Marsa Machpelah, the burial location for Sarah, now finally you're doing my chesed? How do we understand it? right? We discussed this in the past. For answer now, why definitely not the answer. Okay, you want to say because like it says, when you bury a person, there's no expectation of reciprocation. Any other thing, there's reciprocation. There's a certain subconscious level of wanting reciprocation. We learned that from Yaakov. When Yaakov asked Yosef to bury him in Canaan, he says, "I want you to do with me chesed shalamis, a true chesed." So for there, Rashi cites Chazal. Why is burying a person chesed shalamis? Because the person you're offering this chesed to cannot reciprocate. There's no expectation of reciprocation at any level. When you're dealing with a living person, you never know. Someday that person, you may need him subconsciously. But that's learned from Yaakov. This is not learned from here, from Avraham Avinu. Right? So what is it? So why did Hashem say, finally you've arrived? Now you're doing my kind of chesed. Now, why did Hashem create the world? Where do we see the first act of chesed of Hashem? So David Melech says in Tehillim, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. The creation of the world was an act of chesed. He created a setting that the human being could be the ultimate beneficiary of one of a kind of chesed. Because if you succeed and you meet the challenges of life, what do you ultimately merit? The most special level of relationship, of goodness. You have a relationship with Hashem, who's the source of all goodness on an absolute level. What was the impetus? Hashem has no impetus. He has no needs. He did it purely for the sake that the person should be the beneficiary of the chesed. That's Hashem's chesed. When Hashem does chesed, he does it for chesed reasons. No other reason. When Avraham did hospitality, why did he do hospitality? Of course, he did it for the sake of Hashem. But it wasn't hospitality for hospitality. The hospitality was only a vehicle to bring people to monotheism. So why am I offering you the food? Because you need food. Because you need honor. That wasn't Avram's objective. That wasn't his motivation. It was a vehicle that once he enters into the dialogue, when the person would express his appreciation, once that conversation began, by the end of the night, the person was a committed believer in monotheism. When he buried Sarah Imenu, it wasn't a vehicle. He wanted to accommodate Sarah, who was deserving of this honor, to be buried in a location which was the ultimate location. That's chesed for chesed's sake. It's not chesed as a vehicle for some other reason. Every aspect of Avraham Avinu did it for the sake of Hashem. But is it chesed for chesed, or chesed is only the means to something else? This is the first time Avraham did chesed for the chesed itself. It wasn't a means to anything else. Therefore, Hashem says, finally now, the chesed you're doing is exactly as I do the chesed.
So
Second bracha of Shemona Esrei, what do we say? Mechalkel chayim bechesed, right? Hashem sustains life with chesed. What does Hashem sustain life? The world was created for a purpose. Olam chesed yiboneh. Man should be the ultimate beneficiary. You have all kinds of people in this world. Every conceivable amenity that a human being needs for that challenge, to create that setting of choice, Hashem provides. What's the impetus for that? Chesed. Again, it's only the man should be the ultimate beneficiary. God has no obligation to anyone. It's only he should be the beneficiary, that if he makes the right choice, he will be the beneficiary of the ultimate goodness. Because he'll be worthy to have that relation with Hashem, which is goodness on the absolute level.
Rabbi,
Chazal tell us that where do we see this importance of chesed? The Torah starts with chesed and closes with chesed. Where's the Torah start with chesed? The Torah tells us that when Adam and Chava realized they were naked, Hashem provided clothing for them. So we see chesed. It closes with chesed. Moshe Rabbeinu passes away. Who buries Moshe Rabbeinu? Which is the ultimate chesed, Hashem himself. So the Torah is, the beginning is chesed and it closes with chesed. So the bedrock of everything is chesed. That's the profile. But you understand, but still, we still say Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. In terms of the profile, what is the profile? Why does the world exist? The world exists so man should be the ultimate beneficiary. Now, how is he a beneficiary? To that, you have to have the world. Now Hashem gives you the means to be the beneficiary. How? He gives you challenges, and he gives you the Torah, which is the antidote, to be able to achieve that success, to meet every single challenge. That's Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. So chesed is fundamental. Right? The Gemara says in Tainus that Torah is compared to water. Brings many psukim, but you realize water is essential to life, but you can't live on water. A person just has water. You have no food. You understand you're not going to live. Right? What's the staple? Staple is bread. You have to have bread but you need water. But what's essential? The staple of life is bread. Talmud Torah is water. That gives us the vibrancy, the function, everything else. But you have to have the substance. So you have to have all the other mitzvahs to fill in. The person should only study Torah. He shouldn't put on tefillin, shouldn't be distracted to anything else. No. The neshama of a Jew is the Torah. That's the life. But you have to have actually the Jew himself, the person. You have to have it fully fleshed out, the spiritual profile. The spiritual profile is Tarek mitzvahs. That's 613 mitzvahs, 248 positive mitzvahs. Okay.
So is Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam the 613 mitzvahs? Is that what we're?
One word of Torah in its innate value, generating a level of spirituality. One word generates the same spirituality as all 613 mitzvahs. You put on tefillin, it's 1/613th of one word of Torah. In terms of what it provides for the neshama. That's the innate value, but you still need tefillin. Because tefillin corresponds to a certain component in the neshama. It addresses that part. Lulav corresponds to another part of the neshama. Sukkah to another part. Matzah to another part. That sustains each aspect of the neshama. Then there's the totality of the neshama. That's Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam.
So when we do Hachnas Sorchim, we are doing 1/613th part.
What it is, you're emulating Hashem in the way of Olam Chesed Yiboneh. That is God's profile. Hashem's profile is Chesed. That's his profile. Of course, the first salvo, his first presence is existence, and existence is only due to his Chesed.
But that still doesn't have the same value as one word of the Torah that a person studies. That's worth 613 times more than that.
But that person who studies that one word is also doing the other things also. The Gemara says that if a person studies Lumot Naram Naslasos, when you study, you have to study for the sake of actualizing the mitzvahs. If you study only purely for the sake of studying, the Chazal tells us it's better that you shouldn't have entered into this existence. It uses the term, it would have been better Nepach Shil Yosal Ponov, that the placenta, the child should never come out of the placenta, that he should never been born. So it's not just Torah in the ultimate is the ultimate, but in terms of what Hashem wants, he wants more of the Talmud Torah. Okay. It's a medrash. The medrash tells us that if Ephron would have known that when his name would be mentioned in Torah, that the letter would be deleted, he would have done it with a full heart. But because he didn't appreciate what it meant to do with a full heart, therefore he behaved the way he behaved, with this envy, with this ayin hara. I mean, what does this mean? Ephron, he has no relevance to spirituality. He has no spiritual relevance to anything. If he would have known, he would have. and it cites other Chazal. It says that the Torah attested the fact that Ruvain wanted, when he suggested that Yosef should be thrown into the pit, and his intent was not similar to the other brothers, not to kill him. If he would have known that, he would have taken Yosef out of the pit and put Yosef on his shoulders and danced to his father with a musical accompaniment. If he would have known, that was recorded, that his true intention would have been recorded. If he would have known, so that's good. That the Torah would have recorded that, he would have done it in a more perfect way, understanding the value of that. What is the narrative of the Torah? Narrative Torah is not just a story. The Torah itself, as we said, the Ramban says, every letter of Torah is one of the letters of the names of Hashem. It's only the way the letters are conjugated. It reads, the narrative reads. But every word, every letter of the Torah is part of one of the names of Hashem. That's why you find if you have a letter missing from the Torah is puzzle, is not valid, because the bedrock of the Torah are all the various names of Hashem. So therefore, if the letter is deleted by Ephron, Hashem arranged it, and that's the reason why the Torah is eternity. The Torah, we say, Yisrael Oraisa V'Kuchru Chadhu. The Torah is God himself. That means Ephron, his whole value, having even one letter deleted, that means he's less relevance to eternity. He has less relevance to God. Whether he believes in it doesn't make a difference. But what was the consequence of his envy? The diminishment is one letter less. That's what it is. If Reuven would have known the value, he would have performed it with greater joy. Therefore, the Torah would have been more expansive to explain it in a more obvious way, what he did. So he would have done it in a fuller way. Understanding, it would have given a greater portion in eternity. That's the understanding of the Chazal, of the Medrash. Now, I wanted to just mention about Chesed. If we're saying accommodating a person's physicality, that's emulating Hashem, because that's Chesed. What's the ultimate Chesed? If you save a person's neshama, you give him food to eat, or you save his neshama, which has greater value. You're able to offer a person some insight, a Jew, into his Judaism, then she have a greater appreciation. What have you offered him? There's no greater chesed. Because what you offered him, you're addressing the purpose of his existence. That's the ultimate chesed. There's no greater chesed than that. You know, a square meal I'll give him. Okay, that's his physicality. But what's the value of his physicality? His physicality, its value is he exists for an objective. What's his objective? The objective is his spirituality. So if you do things which addresses his spirituality, that's the ultimate chesed that you can provide for a person. And that's because what was the purpose of creation? Exactly that he should be able to make choices and have enough of an understanding that what is the appropriate choice. So if you're able to be part of that process, give that person the appreciation of what the value of the appropriate choice is, that's the ultimate chesed that you're offering that particular person. You know, this whole word, don't meddle in his life. There's no meddling. A person is drowning, and you pull him out of the brink and save his life. No, why don't you mind your own business? Let the man drown. A man wants to commit suicide, and you're able to save his life, to stop him from taking his life. What have you offered him? You've offered him his life, his existence. So if the purpose of existence is this, and you offer him that he should have an appreciation for the value of his existence, what level of chesed are you offering him? That's the ultimate chesed. There's a famous Gemara in Megillah. We find that Mordechai was a member of the Sanhedrin. and he was a member of the Anshe Knesset Agdola, the men of the High Assembly. Before he became the viceroy of Persia, because when Ahasuerus realized that he was related to Esther, he had one function. When he became the viceroy, that had detracted and interfered with his level of learning. So over there it says in the Megillah that after he became viceroy, he was Rotzui L'Rovechov. He was in the favor of the majority of his colleagues. Before he became viceroy, he was Rotzui L'Cholechov. All his peers, he was favored by all of them. Afterwards, it was the majority. Why? Samara says because now he wasn't learning, he wasn't as involved as before, because now he has other levels of responsibility. He's the viceroy, he has to tend to the material responsibilities of the Persian Empire. So the question is, Mordechai saved the day. And he is the one who brought the Jews to do tshuva. He galvanized them, whatever it is. So the whole miracle of Purim came through Mordechai. Now, as a result of that, he has no choice. He was handpicked by Ahasuerus to be the viceroy. He couldn't say no. To function in this capacity, this secures the relationship between the Persian, the king, the emperor, and the Jewish people. So how could it be only Rotzi L'Rovechov? Only the majority of his colleagues saw him in that good place. There was a minority who saw him that, something, this indicates a failing on Mordechai's part. What failing? He did everything he could do. He was dedicated to the nth degree. So how do we understand it? So the takeaway the Gemara says, from here we see that Gedola Hachnosis Orchim Me'atzos Nefoshes. Excuse me, Gedola Talmud Torah, greater is the study of Torah than Hatzos Nefoshes. Torah has greater value in saving a person's life. Because here he saved Klal Yisrael, and here he's been criticized by a minority of his colleagues because he's not studying Torah as much. So from here we see that Gedola Talmud Torah Me'atzos Nefoshes. We say when it comes to Hatzos Nefoshes, it overrides the whole Torah its entirety. Right? You have to study and you have to save a person's life. You cancel your learning, you'll save a person's life, regardless of how much interruption it has. But the takeaway, because of that pasuk in the Megillah Esther, we say Gedola Talmud Torah Me'atzos Nefoshes. How do we understand it?
Through Torah study.
Exactly. I mean, the question directs you to the answer. Why do we exist? We exist for a purpose. What is that purpose? To just live as human beings. We live for an objective. What is the ultimate part of that objective? Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. That is the ultimate. So here, if the objective of saving life is for that purpose, and the end result is it's less, and that's why there was criticism here, and he fell out of favor with a minority of his colleagues. That tells you that Talmud Torah is greater than what that Hatzos Nefoshes. Because what was the consequence of his saving people's lives? He studied less Torah. Even though you provided for them an existence that now Torah studied at a special level. But you on your personal level, it caused you that you're studying less. You're no longer that same person because of that. But it's not all answered because still, but look at all the Jews that are studying Torah. There's a Klal Yisrael. But here the Gemara say, but on Mordechai's personal level, right? The question was, saving a life is the ultimate. But you have to say, why saving a life is the ultimate? Because saving a life, a Jewish life, has that value. I'll give you an example. The Gemara says that normally we say that saving a life is the overriding factor and it supersedes the Torah. Except, what about a person gives you an ultimatum? Either kill this person or you will be killed. Right? If it's Ritzicha for murder does not allow you to violate the Torah. Does not allow you. Why? So the Gemara says, because who says your blood is any redder than the other person's blood? So only God knows whose life has greater value. Therefore, it's not resolved. Therefore, you sit back, do nothing. And even though you're going to be killed, you're not permitted to take the other life to save your life. That's Gemara Sanhedrin. So Rashi says on that Gemara, what does it mean? Who said your blood is any red than the other person's blood? So he says that every neshama of a Jew has a certain level of preciousness. And no two neshamas are the same. The only one who knows whose neshama is more precious is only God. As a result of that, not knowing that, only Hashem himself, therefore, you have no right to cross that line because maybe the other person's neshama has greater value than yours. So he explains it like this. The Torah says, you live for the Torah, you don't have to die. Why? Because the value of life is to fulfill the Torah. Therefore, life takes precedence over the Torah's entirety. But over here, when we're talking about the person himself, which is the value of the neshama, who says your neshama has greater value, is more precious than the other person's neshama. As a result of that, you have no right to take. Because what is the purpose of a Jew's neshama? The purpose is the Torah itself. So if a person is endowed with a more special neshama, you can't take the other person's neshama because maybe your neshama has less value in terms of the ultimate purpose of your existence. So the takeaway from that Rashi is, what about if somebody's given an ultimatum? Either kill or be killed, and the person you have to kill is a non-Jew. This law doesn't apply. Why? Because he says it's the yakrush of Nishmas Yisrael. It's the preciousness of the Jewish soul. The purpose, Bereshis Bara Elokim, for the sake of the Jewish people, for the sake of Torah, the world was created. So this objective only has relevance to the Jewish people, has no relevance to the non-Jew. As a result of that, the question of who innately is more precious, that's only when we pit a Jewish soul against a Jewish soul. But if it's a Jewish soul versus a non-Jewish soul, this concept has no relevance, has no application. But what's the objective? Therefore, Mordechai, the takeaway is Gedola Talmud Torah Yotzvat Sols Nefoshes, because the only value of life is Talmud Torah. And since over here it compromised his Talmud Torah, therefore he was only valued by the majority of his colleagues, but no longer by all his colleagues.